Cory. How's everybody doing? I appreciate y'all. How y'all doing?
Hey, great to be here.
I'm grateful to be here.
If we go around the horn here, Cory, if you introduce yourself to the audience here and let everybody know all about you.
Hi, folks. First of all, I want to claim my bee citizenship, so shout out to the bees out there in the audience. I'm here today representing the bees and Cryptonaires. I'm a data research analyst for that group. It's a Web3 educational platform that just basically educates and informs people about all things crypto.
Right on. Thank you. Jorge.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah. I can.
Thanks, Ray. My name's Jorge. I am an entrepreneur from Mexico. I've been in the fintech space probably since around 2013. Kind of been trying to help the bees, trying to do financial inclusion projects. So I'm free if anyone wants to ask any questions, crypto related or protocol related. So bring it on.
Right on.
Thanks.
Yes.
But
hey guys, my name is
Rains.
Nick Rains. I'm the founder of Mini-Metamon. It's one of the first deflationary collections in the NFT space. It's a collection of 100,000. It's actually, I would love to talk about it more, but I'm here representing Cryptonaires and hopefully giving some insight into what the future of NFTs can yield outside of these, not degenerate, but the 10K collections we're used to.
Right on. That's it.
Thanks for having me, guys.
What's up? I'm Alex Wagner. I'm founder of Quantum Society, which is a learn-to-earn ecosystem that rewards people for learning information that mentally and financially empowers them.
Awesome.
Hi, everyone. My name is Aviva David, and with my gorgeous women-led team in the front right here, I am one of the co-founders of a media company called New Earth Media. We feel that there is a brand new earth being built with NFTs and a new industrial revolution. So we felt that the name was fitting, but within the umbrella of New Earth Media and us helping brands activate their NFTs with proper education, we also developed Met Talk, which is soon to be future TED Talks of the metaverse. So we're really excited about that. And we just came out with an NFT that we are specially releasing to you today. We'll give a little bit more detail about that soon. It's called Got Mint, so kind of like the Got Milk campaign. And there's going to be some really fun utilities to that. So that's me.
Awesome. Appreciate y'all. Thank you. So our conversation today is about NFTs and how they're going to change business models. I mean, this is a big deal, right? The more common ones we all talk about are gaming, social media, music, art, access. So what is the big thing about NFTs that you think, Cory, and any of those subjects that we could start out with? I mean, I know you're a big community builder, so however you want to take that, go ahead. Thank you.
I'll take that as a compliment.
It is. You are.
Thank you. NFTs, as we know them currently, are just in their very, very infant stages. They have the ability to change the world as we know them, but not as JPEGs and PFPs necessarily. But that is the scaffolding, that is the architecture, it's the foundation. So we haven't begun to see what we're going to see. NFTs will get to a point where they will literally be able to save lives. Lift people out of poverty, as we're seeing that happen now with some projects. But in developing countries especially, and I know the bees are very concerned about that, they will have the power to bank the unbanked, help people who may not have documentation for IDs and things of that nature, be able to help people who otherwise wouldn't qualify for bank accounts, or who may not have a centralized infrastructure where they can have things like IDs, which can be an issue if you're trying to get into the job market or anything else. So I'm really looking forward to see what the future is going to be, because it's a huge one.
It is. There's a lot to it, right? Jorge, I appreciate that, Cory. What is, I mean, I know you're a developer. What do you think about how this is going, especially maybe access, or you can take any of these other, things, but what do you think about that?
I think that one of the main key things from NFTs is being able to, well, there's a ton of stuff going for them. But yeah, in terms of access, being able to validate access, and it's basically a pass you can share around. It's basically some sort of like virtual real estate that you can own and resell and move. And I think that the key features are being able to validate people or identities or like virtual identities. Let's say in a game, like you could have a character that's represented by an NFT, and being able to ensure that that character or persona is unique and you can validate it no matter where it is or the wallet it belongs to. I think that they're also going to be huge for overall DAO ecosystems. One of the things that we were looking at, for example, were that a lot of the current DAOs, even the ones that are made for NFTs, still use the original ERC20 balance standards. So instead of actually the representation of votes is managed by balance, by address, not by NFT. And I think that's going to change, where the NFT in itself will become some sort of avatar that represents people in those types of organizations. And last off, like, I think that for digital goods overall, it'll provide a lot of advantages. And that can be from gaming wise in the sense of where you can have like unique items that hold value, and they can be probably shared between different games and worlds, and to put it in like fat words, metaverses.
Right.
And from there, it's the same thing where you can maintain uniqueness and ensure that that's used for other things like supply chain, like that translates into real world use cases. And you can use that to track things, know exactly where they were, and you can ensure that that item was only once present in whatever part of the supply chain. So I'll give the word to the other guys, and I guess we can elaborate in a bit.
No, right on. Thank you. Like Nick, I know you're also a songwriter, right?
Absolutely.
There you go. Right. How do you think about in music? And I don't mean to divert you if you had something.
No, that's actually
right
the
on.
exact point I wanted to get into. I am a student at Berklee College of Music. I'm a songwriting and audio production major. I'm currently taking a semester off to work on min-masterclass. So let's start there for a second. Like you alluded to, we actually have the first collection in what we're building. It's taking the same technology from collections like BAYC, where you're giving the computer the ability to choose the assets and generate the artwork. But what you can do is use it in the same sense as an RPG like Skyrim, where the first thing you do is you create your character for the game. Well, in the metaverse, what we can do is we can give the client side the assets. We can allow the user to create their own character. We can actually have this NFT in the wallet affect what is generating on the Web 2 side of things. And then we can also have the NFT act as some sort of verification to prevent bot spam outside of passwords on the back end. So whenever we're getting into, that's present utility, but whenever we're getting into the utility and future use cases, one project that I've been working on for the past 6 months is, it's unreleased, but it's called Unified Music Initiative. And it's the premise that we've seen in the music industry as the access to technology and the bar to entry has been lowered by home recording technology. We've seen an influx of recording artists on platforms like Spotify and SoundCloud. What Web3 can actually do in this space, for instance, is provide new funding solutions to artists and large catalogs alike. So you can take principles from DeFi 2.0, you can tokenize their existing catalogs, and you can provide immediate liquidity to catalogs like Katy Perry, Coldplay. Yep. But what this means for independent artists is if you take the premise and the structure of an NFT being digital validation, authorship, or ownership, if you go the right routes with transparency, working with the proper resources. So let's say people leaned in to, say, resources like the SEC. You actually looked at, let's say, copyrights as securities. Yep. The premise that I'm the biggest fan of right now is taking ownership of a sound recording or a compositional right. The artist can retain 51% of the copyright. But what you can do is you can have an NFT represent one of one for 100% ownership, or you can fractionalize the ownership, create 4,900 shares, share that with your 5,000 friends on Twitter or Instagram, sell it for $10 NFT or share. And then what the artist has done is funded themselves $49,000 off of their first recording.
Incredible. It's great. It is. It's amazing. Yep. It is incredible. It's exciting what all this is. You know, that it's what's cool is you know, all of us here we are pioneers, right? we are coming out into this thing, and we really don't know how this is going to look, but it's incredible, the things that this is capable of, and I appreciate that. But go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to.
No,
Alex.
Ray, what you said was very, very important. How this is so new. Like, if you think about it, the human collective consciousness right now knows like probably less than 10% of what NFTs are going to be in the future. So we already see so many use cases, but we don't even know the building on top of the building on top of the building in the use cases of that, which really excites me. One of the things that I'm pumped about with NFTs is they give people the ability to be consumers and also have an asset in return for their consumption. Although there's some tricky questions that we'll see worked out with the SEC over the next couple of years on that. But you can, if you want to be a part of a group and that group holds value to you and you get to enjoy the amenities and the benefits of being as a part of that group or a part of some organization. And as that organization grows, the value of your membership to that organization grows. So from the old Web 2 model of just paying, if you pay $30,000 to be part of a mastermind, you spent that $30,000 and you have your mastermind. But here you have an NFT that if the mastermind becomes even cooler, that NFT increases in value and you have an asset on top of your consumption of the goods.
Yeah, no, it is. That's awesome. It is. It's great. It's great where we're going, right? And what do you think about it, Aviva?
So I actually would love to bring up the topic of influencers and content creators, which actually Becky sitting in the front over there is a literal mastermind behind the psychology behind all of it. And what I would love to see is proof through NFTs and the blockchain for actually showing up and properly presenting a brand or being involved in a brand, where we cut the crap, in a sense, with influencers just kind of getting paid behind the scenes to just show something, whether they believe in it or not, and be able to reward people through social media and NFTs to show their involvement, either with somehow connecting their wallets and their username to the NFT. It's actually something we're in discussions about. I'm not going to say too much about that, but it's fascinating because it's kind of going to break the wall of what is happening through influencing and content creation, and it will really help people become creative and become super fans to your brand or your mission or a specific charity fund. So that's something actually I'm super interested in to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Next question, and I do want this to be a conversation. So I mean, just kind of jump in and let's kind of like talk. That's right. It's absolutely. But so what does it mean that NFTs will have the ability to digitize things, right? So you're talking about houses, vehicles, even expense.
Annuities.
What?
Annuities.
Annuities?
Like we're seeing with Fiscus now.
Yeah.
I think taking it back to a basic understanding of what an NFT is, right? So for anyone who doesn't really understand, you can think of it like Monet, right? The artist creates the work. They retain ownership of the copyright and the intellectual property. You can have giclées of the Monet, and people can have the artwork in homes around the world, which would be like screenshotting a JPEG of a Bored Ape and using it as your profile picture without the hexagon. Thanks, Twitter Blue. But in this current climate, what an NFT allows for is to have that one-of-one Babe Ruth baseball card, and the digital signature of the blockchain authenticates your ownership, which can lead into the premise of so many other areas of centralized finance and traditional finance, and like we're talking about royalty streams with music. But if anybody wants to jump off from there.
When you mentioned real estate and home ownership, which we know is pretty tough right now for most of us. But when you can have an NFT, your mortgage on an NFT, you can close in 2 to 3 days versus the usual month or 6 that it might take us right now. So it has the ability to really change the world. The creator environment and the valuing of artists is what I also love about it. Before, you had starving artists. You had people that weren't getting their due for the work that they were putting in, or people really undervaluing artists, especially if you were a visual artist, or saying, well, you know, if that was your major, or you wasted time drawing, what are you doing that for? Your parents are, this is like, I'm throwing away this college tuition on you. So now I feel like it's come full circle. It's the new renaissance of art. An artist, the celebration of an artist, to be able to have that work mean something and have that work valued.
And closely connect it to your fans, right? Having access back to you or whatever sometime during the year that they can actually get on. And it's very cool. Yep.
Yeah, I think that one of the key things here, and going back to maybe what you were saying, like the difference between having a screenshot of of a JPEG and actually owning it, and in the end, I mean, I also think you're right. That we're probably just like 10% of the use cases, and probably less, to be honest. And a lot of the use cases to come are compounded with the rest of the ecosystem and the technology, because it's not only NFTs; it's the aggregate with NFTs plus tokens plus overall what you can do with smart contracts, blockchain. And one of the key things is it's not that like uniqueness or rare things is something new. A lot of things actually came already from like the gaming world, where you had like skins for certain items, and they become unique because it's centralized rarity. But now you can actually have a representation, and I think the key thing is the standardization of what's unique, by having a place where you can use as a single source of truth, and you can verify and ensure that it's immutable and it's going to be unique there. Then you can use it to validate and extend over it and create the governance mechanics, create royalty systems, create mastermind groups. But the key thing here with the NFTs, where you can ensure and everyone agrees on the standard, and then you can automate it and build on that. And I think that's the important part.
That's such a good point. There's more fake, and think about the applications of doing business and collecting things. Like, there's more fake Rolexes out there than real Rolexes. Yeah. What if, you know, every real Rolex had, was traced back to an NFT, so you know that the origination was from Rolex. I come from an e-commerce background, and when doing business with suppliers in other countries, in China especially, we would always have the issue of we want to make sure this is the original supplier, and all the suppliers would just copy the PDF documents of the original supplier and just send you that. So you'd have like 15 different suppliers telling you they're all the original suppliers, sending you the exact same documents that they're the original supplier. And it's difficult if you don't have people on the ground to, figure out who is who. So the NFTs, boom, this issue is resolved. NFT of who's the original supplier, you can check on the blockchain. Like you said, this universal book of truth, and do business more safely.
I'm going to hop in on that really quick. So not just suppliers, right? Thinking off the top of my head, just from what you brought up, you could actually take any centralized structure and you can replicate it on the blockchain, especially if it's dealing with ledgers and data. Identities, for instance, could even be immutable on the blockchain. Things like identity theft could actually not occur. Well, I mean, unless you get your wallet hacked, right? Those fake MetaMasks out there. But in the same sense, you could have verifiable identities, and not just verifiable from a centralized asset like a government perspective, but from a network of decentralized, I guess, what is the word I'm looking for? Not nodes, not assets, but individuals. Validators, exactly. So moving away from centralized identity verification and moving into a more decentralized form of verifiable identities. But I digress, I suppose. That's it. I'm blanking.
I'm just going to add to that because something popped into my mind. I'm sure you've heard this, maybe you have felt this, but people are afraid of cryptos and NFTs and all of this lingo and the metaverse, and we're all going to be walking around like zombies with some kind of contraption on our face, not talking to each other and living in a fake jungle in the land of who knows where on an Oculus, right? And when I explain it to them like this, and again, Becky, I think she actually said this one day and I was laughing so hard. She said, just tell people that they're literally a walking NFT. And I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, well, if you have a social security number, you have like, you're basically a walking NFT. Every single person here has an original ID minted somewhere in the government somehow, whatever you want to call it, and you're literally walking NFTs. So break it down in a simple way where they could say, oh yeah, I am original. Oh, I am somewhere with a number walking around. And as much as you like the feeling of that or not, it is what it is. And now we're just taking it and having a really fun time with it. Now we're taking it and asking you if you want to be a part of this community that you relate to, or this community that you relate to. Where do you want to stick yourself? Where do you want to stick your assets? And where do you want to grow? So that's how I just kind of look at it in a basic way.
No, 100%, because I mean, it is. It's on the blockchain. It's transparent. There's no, fiddling with it. It is, and that goes perfectly with the next question I'm talking about. Is the ownership economy? Everybody kind of went into the internet and gave everything away, gave the house away. So how can NFTs restore and take back some ownership for ourselves, right? How do you think?
It's very connected with the whole premise of Web3 and what it is, and the opportunity that it presents in terms of being able to equalize the playing field for so many people. Yep. It's just looking at the lives that has already changed. So I think of NFTs also like a key. And you need certain keys to open certain doors. What if you had an NFT that opened your house door, but it also served as your driver's license, your social security card, your health information was there on it? How would that change the world in terms of ease, convenience, and as they say, authentication, and keys to access certain memberships or certain privileges, certain entitlements. And not just for the select few, but for everybody.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that it's going to be interesting because it's going to be a complete shift of like how people think about certain business models. It's a full paradigm shift of what people consider and what's possible, and mainly because before you actually couldn't feasibly do something where you could spread out ownership and kind of ensure that people get their share directly, right? Like the level of participation that this enables is beyond anything that we could do before. And that's part of, for example, the key things of blockchains, where now you can verify that in a fully decentralized manner and kind of delegate that part of the ownership. And kind of going into one example, and just to retake something you were saying, people who have like, it's interesting because a lot of people will need to rethink how they view stuff and get acquainted with crypto. And there's definitely an education part. And now with the ownership concept, people will need to shift. But there's already things where they already have like a unique identity and other stuff. And one of the few things that I think that, for example, the Mexican government has done right is you already have a private key to sign everything for the kind of the IRS version in Mexico. So you have private and public keys, and you're already using that cryptography. And it's a matter of teaching people and people getting used to how things are changing into the new models. And it will be an interesting transition. And this might be going back slightly to the other topic. One of the things I for sure think is that most people and most projects that are successful in the midterm will be those who people don't even know they're using crypto or NFT behind the scenes. Like, it'll be seamless. And I kind of see that, for example, from the previous company I had co-founded, probably has like 2 million, 3 million users in Latin America, but it kind of used crypto behind the scenes and other concepts, but you never presented that to the final user. Now, with the whole idea of the ownership economy, I think that there's going to be a lot of models where people start using and having NFTs, and they'll never even know they're using them. As soon as we can sort the way to recover your wallet if it gets hacked or uses a private key, that's kind of slightly inconvenient. But
It's definitely not perfect yet, that's for sure, but that's the joys of being early. If you understand NFTs at this level already, if you understand blockchain and how they work at this level, you are a part of probably 7% of the world's population. You have the ability to take your unique life, your unique connections to the real world, and leverage that to stand on the shoulders of the people who have come before you to make the system better. If I could be transparent for a moment, when we're talking about NFTs as ownership, we allude back to one of the original questions you had, which was how they could be leveraged in music. But it actually fundamentally changes the way that companies are structured. For instance, min-masterclass is an LLC based out of Miami, Florida. I, the owner, retain 100%. However, I have 26 employees. First of all, that's amazing. They're from all over the world, a team of 16 in Brazil. We have people out of Turkey. We have people out of the UK. We have people out of Venezuela and Chile. Amazing, talented artists. One thing that I believe in as a creator and as an artist is actually incentivizing people building the product with you. So 24% of our project, the profits from one of the selected mint phases, goes back to the artist. And the secondary sales go to the artist who made the NFTs. And we have different parts and different allocations going to different deals structured within the business, none of it taking away from the ownership of the actual business to the founder. But everybody working on the project using a MetaMask wallet can trust not in me, but in the system as a whole, that whenever I press the withdraw function, 24% gets allocated to every person working on the project. And that if I win, if the project wins, that they're going to win too.
That's awesome.
I like what you said about how it's going to be like, it's a paradigm shift that's happening. We get to innovate from a first principles standpoint and look at everything again and on how to give more power and more enjoyment to the end user and to the people. And I think that's very exciting, because and a lot of people get very, very scared because they don't know a lot about the NFT space, and there's a lot of unknowns in the space. But the best place to create is in the unknown. So now is the time to collaborate and to put together the NFT space with the intentions and the collaboration and the principles that we want, because we are the early adopters. There's the amount of wallets on OpenSea are in the hundreds of thousands. So that's peanuts compared to when the wave of adoption happens. And the wave of adoption is going to be based on what we build right now.
Yep, absolutely. Thanks, Alex.
Aren't you so if anybody doesn't realize, Web 2, the monetization is actually your attention. The currency is your attention, whether it's reading a blog article, I'm selling you an advert, and that advert is paying for my site to be up. But you're actually taking this model of attention and shifting it into Web3, right?
Yes. So some of you have probably heard of play-to-earn video games, where people are rewarded for playing a video game in a currency in NFTs, and they get to sell those and make money, or reinvest them back into the ecosystem. So what we're building is a learn-to-earn ecosystem where, just like you said, the attention, what's giving value to the play-to-earn ecosystem is the people spending their attention in the ecosystem. So here, if people were to spend their attention in an ecosystem where they learn things that financially and mentally empower them, and that attention is monetized, just like really any company monetizes attention that goes in its direction, you can reward people for bettering themselves. And that's just one use case.
At a very early stage.
What?
At a very early stage.
At a very early stage.
And just to add one thing, that actually ties nicely to one of the first things you actually said, and that was that the community gets the value, right? Like as you grow, and that's part of the ownership part, like you can be part of a project, and it's not only like, the point is not only that it might be a great project, but as it grows and you promote it and you like the project and you stay there, the NFTs and overall like things you can do with tokenomics, you can have the value aggregation of the project itself, and that's spread out to people who are participants. And I think that's awesome.
Yeah, and not to digress further away from the original talking point, but what you bring up is one of the first utilities that we saw with NFTs was the immutability of the blockchain to transmute a royalty long after the initial sale has taken place. So if you go back to like Woodstock and you have an original poster you paid 64 cents in whatever decade, 70s, now is worth X number of dollars because of scarcity and because of market sentiment. The original manufacturer and artist of that poster don't benefit. But like in the deal with min-masterclass, every artist that is tied into the secondary sales years down the road will continue to benefit, and the business will continue to provide outstanding service to the customers who are continuing the secondary sales and the market. So it's almost as if now it's being flipped, where we were the asset for the centralized assets like Facebook and Google, and now the community. We are indebted to the community, and the better we make our product, the more longevity we think, the more transparency we think, and the more integrity we act upon, the better we get rewarded. Because for every secondary sale, as the floor prices rise, it all comes back not only to us, but to the holders, right? Because if we're taking 7% on the back end, and the community gets to benefit 95%, 93%, 90%. We all are going to benefit if the floor price goes from 0.08 ETH to 40.
I love that. And that makes me think of longevity, legacy, and then passive assets where you can actually build and help build a community, a project, a mission, and pass that down to your children and future generations digitally and with validity. And I think that if you open your mind to what that could mean, if you're personally building a brand or if you're personally involved in a community, make sure it's something that has that longevity option as far as continuing to build financially, networking. I'm a big believer in your network is your net worth. That literally is my mantra. And so just kind of really sit with yourself and think about that and what you're building.
No, thank you.
I kind of see NFTs as the gift that keeps on giving. So artists get paid, no more starving artists. You have a chance for nonprofits, for example, to come up with a self-sustainable situation in which they don't have to beg for funds. It changes the game for so many arenas that are out there, and I just can't wait to see what's gonna happen. I'm very much looking forward to it.
And it kind of goes into this, another next one, is about developing nations, right? And because you touched on it at the beginning, Cory. How is it going to help? There's all these people that maybe never even had devices, right? And they're unbanked. They've never been in the financial system at all. How can NFTs help people like that? Because it doesn't look like, from now, you got a Bored Ape or whatever, this is this much. But what do you think how that helps, these unbanked and these people that are just not a part of it right now?
Well, like the group talked about, especially with developing nations, I'm gonna say there are even nations within nations, even in the United States, that are developing, believe it or not. If you had an opportunity to get into a community where you had an NFT and it was tokenized and there was profit sharing going on. I know here in the States, NFTs, crypto, the whole Web3 system has given people who never had a chance to build generational wealth or thought they would, the opportunity to actually see that as a possibility now. So take a developing nation, same situation, and you get a community. Look at what Axie Infinity has done for the Philippines, right, for example. Yep. It has actually funded economies in countries, and that's just the beginning.
Yeah, and I'll try not to deviate too much, because particularly that question I probably could we could create a second panel and just go on for a long time. I think that one of the key things here is that this type of technologies, and when I say technologies, I'm not only saying NFTs, because I do think there's a lot of other things in play, will be a great equalizer in terms of opportunity, in terms of creating a globalized financial system where people can share and participate, which until now, it's pretty much been segregated and divided between regions. And I think that, for example, the play-to-earn models, learn-to-earn, everything else will be able to reward people wherever they are for their participation and worth what they actually do, not where they live or who they are. And I think that's going to be huge, to be honest.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
Let's just meditate on that. No, I think the utility depends on us on this panel, anybody watching the live stream, and everyone in the audience. The utility depends on you. Everything is what you approach it with. It is the integrity that you approach a project with. It is what you believe in and what you bring to the table. If we could fund $43 million in 3 days for a US Constitution, like, let that sit for a second. If we could raise liquid capital, $43 million in 3 days, and participate at an auction, what can we do with the system of DAOs? So I know for Mini-Metamon in particular, our ecosystem of 151 unique creatures are based off of endangered species or extinct in the wild species. So going into this thinking, how can we give back, right? If we're being inspired by places like the rainforest, I'm a Southern boy, so I believe in taking 10% of anything I earn and giving it to charity, which makes this whole idea of creating an organization that much more fun when we're talking about the premise of maybe $3 million being able to be used to actually affect some sort of world change in wildlife conservation, or creating a DAO called Rainforest DAO under Mini-Metamon and allowing the community to purchase land in the rainforest, possibly make decisions on that and decide how we could leverage $3 million to make deforestation just a little bit harder, right? So it's not even developing nations. Take the premise, how can we create DAOs and create structures that can affect positive change, whether it's in a nonprofit model, a not-for-profit model, or a community funding model, to affect the change that you want to see in the world. So if you're out there with an idea, a cause that you care about, whether it's dolphins or providing water in Africa or solar power or getting people this technology, you can actually use the model to not only fund your project, but in a trustless way ensure that it's not a corrupt centralized organization that's making bad calls, but a community who actually cares about the project funding and ensuring the success, the sustainability, and the integrity of the project.
Yep. Thanks, Nick.
Also, that is, I should have known to give time for clapping after a statement like that. One other thing that this crypto and NFTs, but we in America have been blessed with with an economy that is relatively stable compared to developing countries. And my cousin, he deals with providing cryptocurrency in Bitcoin for developing nations in Africa. And the stuff that he tells me is crazy. They have, their currency, their fiat currency just inflates like 15% in a month. Like, it's nothing. Yeah. Like, imagine having dollars in your bank account and knowing that they're going to inflate 15% to the next month. And that's just how it is. Right. So this gives them access to a relatively stable, interoperable global economy where they can have a little safe haven from that. And also, you mentioned Axie Infinity. I founded an e-commerce agency, and we had somebody quit because they started playing Axie and just started making way more money with Axie than with us.
It's wild.
I think that you should look at it as Lego, and you're literally building a massive monster. And every single person here, however you're participating in, I keep saying, a new industrial revolution, really excites me. And when we're bringing up things like currency, I don't know, I'm a little bit of like a troublemaker and a rebel, in a sense where I'm like, let's build a new earth, screw everyone else. meaning, well, thank you, but meaning, and in the nicest way possible, but in a sense where we, the people, are taking control, and we, the people, are creating, and we, the people, are making magic. And that, to me, is the most exciting part of this, where we're literally, again, like I said, building a brand new earth, and you really have to think of that. So along with crypto fueling NFTs and it being the most stable and volatile thing I've ever seen in my life, it's super exciting to see how it's just this whole entire brand new everything. And I encourage every single person to really step out of your box and decide how you want to play a part in this really awesome game.
Thank you.
When's the last time anyone had Facebook call them up and say, you know what, we've taken your data, we've told you you're old, fat, and ugly, and now we want to pay you for that? It's never happened. But in NFTs, crypto, and Web3, it happens. It's profit sharing. It's, again, empowerment is the word.
Yep, absolutely. Didn't mean to fidget over here. I thought we were getting questions. This has been a great discussion. You guys made it easy. Appreciate it. And yeah, we have some questions from the audience. Let's see here. Thank you.
Can I change seats?
Yeah.
My neck hurts.
You want to change?
I'm looking at everyone like
You wanna
this for
flip?
like an
I'll
hour.
flip.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Thanks.
Yep.
I'm good.
I'll jump over there.
No, thank you.
Oh, good. So a question from the audience. What use cases are you excited about that you haven't seen anyone working on yet?
My use case, character creation on the blockchain, is an amazing idea. And the only reason nobody's doing it is because there's no money in it. Like, what money or resale value is there for me creating a character that I care about, and whenever there's an infinite supply of NFTs? So, like, if you're playing Skyrim, there's no money, I guess, there's no economic value to the person creating the project to create a one-of-one, one-off unique NFT just for one user to make the experience more special for them. But in the use case that we're using it, we're leveraging that one-of-one NFT for security to prevent bot spam whenever we actually go into the actual contract sale. So you could actually, once again, have assets in a wallet affect what renders on Web2 sites. So this interoperability between Web2 and Web3 hybridization, and then you can actually have NFTs through security affect who can mint your contracts. So you wouldn't be able to directly mint from a contract, which prevents the bot spam. You could have still that backdoor access where you have a password interaction between your front end of your website and the contract, requiring you to actually mint through the website. And then as an additional layer, you could have a Discord verification. And then on top of that, you have to have this character that you created to be a part of the project, ensuring that our community members actually have first access to the art that we're building.
Yeah, that's awesome. Anyone?
I'll say something.
Sorry, I think that most use cases that I really like, I probably already searched and found at least someone kind of trying to do it. But I think that one of the ones I'd really like to see is the creation of kind of, and there's a couple of things coming, I guess, but type of DMF, decentralized monetary fund. Like, I would like to see international institutions being replaced by blockchain-based ones. And instead of having things like the IMF controlling and deciding who gets money and trying to get El Salvador to quit Bitcoin, I think that we're at a point where we can create big enough communities that have enough capital that can be raised, that I think we can even start supporting complete nations and having those type of projects.
Yep. Yep, that's huge. It is huge.
So I actually would love to see a way to hold NFT projects or other crypto projects who claim that they are going to be or have given back to charities. So I actually am the head of the West Coast Smiles Through Cars 501c3. We basically take luxury and exotic cars and go visit sick children either in their homes or in hospitals. And we dress up as superheroes. You can look up Batman Real account. He's the bomb. Very close friend of mine. You can look him up on Instagram. And through that, I've kind of been very behind the scenes and have seen a lot of promises from people and a lot of fluff, with people either wanting to attach themselves to a project and say they do good and give back. Maybe they had good intentions, but a way to secure that on the blockchain and be able to create events surrounding or attaching an already existing successful NFT to a charity fund and being able to continue helping fuel the community that will, again, continue giving back to that charity. So that's actually something that I'm personally interested in, probably will be working on that, but just think of that. If you're here and you're creating an NFT project or are involved in one, see how maybe they're giving back. If they say they're giving back, see how you can personally give back to something close to their heart. I think that there's so much money in NFTs and crypto right now, and there's absolutely no reason why a project should not at least look at something to fuel and fund that really does good for the earth and the people.
Yep. Thank you.
What I think is going to be great is all the ways that people will figure out how to create positive feedback loops of people bettering themselves through interacting with something and getting financially rewarded for that, causing them to better themselves more as a result of that, getting more financial rewards. So without, plugging my own project a bunch, I'm trying to word this.
Go for it.
Like
Chill away.
Learn to Earn, for example, right now the current education standard in the U.S. is, you pay like a couple $100,000 for a degree, and then you figure out kind of honestly like what you truly want to do and how to make money, pay taxes, do all of that like after the education. But I see a world where in a decade there's educational institutions that you get rewarded for going and learning things and applying them within these institutions to figure out what you're good at, and then that will allow you to go further down that track and through this positive feedback loop that just pulls people towards what they're good at to become better at that and just empower more people.
Yep, that's right.
And just to add something, because now that you were talking about that, it makes total sense. And the thing is, for example, the way that model could work is because technically by educating yourself and you get a reward because you're better, you could have like provable checkpoints of what you are and what you're doing. But that value can actually come from future value to society, and like countries could incentivize that. It's added value for the total economy in the future, but you get it to yield it now, so you incentivize people to do it more.
And this is how change happens. People create projects that inspire creativity. A spark is created, and look, that spark will go to you. And if you don't answer the call, it'll go to someone else. And it'll keep knocking on doors until somebody actually answers the call. But it's no different than somebody having a specialty, presenting their knowledge, and just having the courage to be themselves and to present it and be okay with being wrong if they're wrong and facing the consequences. But it actually allows like-minded individuals to come on board and bring their specialties, and then you can create something magical together.
100%. And we're simpatico with all the learn to earn. That's exactly right. I mean, this is fun. That's kind of what all this is about, right? This is why we are doing these things, because we do need to work together. We do need to start collaborating. It's a big deal, and we do all bounce off of ideas off of each other and all that stuff. There's another question. Good. This is of NFT communities all over. What are the top three tips can you give a noob scouting for an NFT group?
Transparency.
Yeah.
So
Transparency.
Well, what does transparency really mean? I mean,
Doxing, operating with integrity, and just provable metrics. If you can't fact check it, if it gives you like a little pit in your chest, like
Listen to that.
there is so much FOMO around this space. Like you don't have to drop your life savings or leverage your house to get into this next project. I mean, my project wouldn't have come along if I didn't have a rug pulled on me in December with the whole node season we just had. So for me, moving into projects in the future, I want to present the face that I want to see I want to present the change that I'd like to see in the industry, right? So as a founder, I'm completely doxxed. There's no reason why I shouldn't be. If I'm not doxing myself, then I'm operating out of fear, or I'm actually hiding something. Like there was a situation with Fiscus DAO earlier this year where the premise of the project is bringing off-chain financial structures like annuities on-chain. However, the actual founder was anonymous because he was afraid that his past transgressions would affect the public sentiment of the project, which they did. Doubled, if not more, because it turned out he actually ended up being like a thief who stole like $7 million from Merrill Lynch or some craziness, which matters. Transparency.
But I would only argue one thing there, and I don't think you always need to know who's behind things if they're planned correctly and the contracts are like, in the end, that's part of the chain, the cool part of blockchain. Like you can have pre-programmed mechanics where you don't need to trust people. You can actually trust code. And I can think a couple of reasons why people would want to remain anonymous, depending on where they live, depending on the situation. Maybe it's like a nonprofit trying to get confidential papers out and something. Like there's many legit use cases for that. If you had to come into a project, and this is going to sound boring because I'm pretty sure a lot of people say it, but it's do your own research. Like don't trust whatever people say. Never invest more than you can actually afford to lose. That's not financial advice, FYI, I guess. And in the end, it's going to be a mix where you should not expect instant value added. Like you should be joining for the right reasons also. And it's something usually where you want to join things that you believe long term. Because if you're just joining for like
a quick 10x,
yeah, you're probably also joining a pretty shitty project, to be honest. Like if you get that feeling like I'm just going to flip this, there is a high chance you're not joining something that's a good project long term. Because any long term project thinks of how to sustain itself for the good of the project, not for the good of the first month.
I just wanted to talk about community.
Take advantage of the blockchain. Like if a founder says they're going to give 24% of mint to a certain thing, you can go on there and check for yourself and see if they're operating with integrity. You can see you can trace the founders' wallets and look what NFTs they're holding, and if they're that's where they're they're them putting the money where their mouth is. If they're holding a bunch of NFTs that are from projects that are growth focused, operate with integrity, then that's another green flag. If they hold a bunch of scammy hype based NFTs, that can be a red flag.
Yeah. And I'll let you, if you could wrap it up, Cory. Give me the wrap it up signal.
Real wrap it up. Look for community that's organic, that's strong. That is a key metric to any success story. It's not about the floor. It's like, is that community, have they been there? Do they have longevity? Do they care about the project and the value added? Did they get 50,000 followers overnight and every word in the Discord is GM? Stay away.
Yep, 100%. Thank you all very much. Can we get a big round of applause for our panel? Really appreciate you.